This is Sandy Alt reporting from the wild, and this is the audio podcast companion to my blog on Substack. This is episode 45, Second Curse, Worse Than the First. Defiant denial could doom us to a Trump dynasty. I had a stomach-turning, split-screen moment this week. It started during my morning reading with an article by Jonathan V. Last. He cites polls showing the top 5 people likely to become the next Republican nominee for president. The 5th entry in the list is Donald J. Trump Jr. JVL says,
"The only real question about a Trump Jr. candidacy is whether he decides to run. If he does, he should be the overwhelming favorite."
And after a brief analysis of the top 4 contenders, Last concludes that there are 2 billion reasons why DJ TJ would run for president. None of these have anything to do with serving or leading the country. As I was reading this, a soundtrack in my head clanged and wailed, a cacophony of air raid sirens and cash registers cha-chinging. As if this wasn't enough to make me nauseous, I next dipped my toe into the murky waters of social media to post some clips from my recent Substack live event. The first impression from my Facebook feed was a screed I've seen a number of times, which has been circulating amongst Trumpists, who are then encouraged to repost and sign their name to it. It begins,
"I'm going to vent. I have lived through Presidents Eisenhower, Kennedy, LBJ, Nixon, Ford, Carter, Reagan, H.W. Bush, Clinton, W. Bush, Obama, Biden, and now Trump. Never, ever in my lifetime have I ever seen or heard a president being scrutinized over every word he speaks. He's been hated and humiliated by the public. He's slandered constantly and ridiculed often. He has been insulted, lied to, lied about, and threatened."
The polemic proceeds.
"I am ashamed and sick of those who feel they have the right to say and do the things they're doing."
And it concludes,
"As an American citizen, you should respect and support his position as our leader, period. If you can't do that, then maybe you should find another home and stop destroying the land that I love."
Ordinarily, it's easy for me to dismiss this kind of maggot ranting, but this was posted by an acquaintance, a woman I have met and whose family I know and respect. Let's call her Mary. Mary's people trace back to the early days of white settlement of the American West. They were some of the first ranchers in Colorado. I knew the family through my career as an author because Mary's mom was an independent bookseller, and she hosted big book signings for me every time a new novel in my series was released. She told me I would really be the berries the day I was featured in Cowboys and Indians magazine. And when that happened the first time, she called to congratulate me, and then she and her husband traveled all the way to northern Colorado for a celebratory overnight visit. These are good people. During my book tour for Wild Inferno, a thriller set on a wildfire, Mary's stepdad, who had been a wildland firefighter like me, brought friends of his from the Forest Service, all tricked out in their yellow and green Nomex, to the book signing. They came up front with me and talked to the audience about the realism with which I had depicted the scenes of firefighting in the book. After the event, Mary's parents hosted my husband and me and our wolf Tiwa overnight in their home. So when Mary reached out to me one summer and asked,
Hi, Sandy. My mother tells me you've rescued another little wolf cub. My husband and granddaughter and I will be visiting your neck of the woods next week. Could we come by and meet the little cub?
of course, we welcomed them. Yes, Mary and her family were gracious, good people. And though hard for me to reckon, all of them, Mom, Dad, all their kids, and now grown grandkids, have become staunch Trumpists. So this week, when I first glimpsed Mary's post, I didn't stop to read it. I'd seen that exact rant before. I quickly moved on. I was busy, but this post niggled me all day. Between the annoyance of that post and the unsettling analyses in the JVL article, my head stayed in a slow spin. How could we be looking at another election with a Trump on the ballot? How could someone as bright, successful, and privileged as Mary succumb to the hate and otherism that is the trademark of the Trump brand? What did she have to complain about? The world she'd been handed was one of real legacy and promise. How could Republicans not be as exhausted as the rest of us were with the erosion of decency, morality, diplomacy, and democratic norms and values? I tried to shrug off my vexation, but I was unable to let it go. I wondered if I could reason with Mary. I obsess this way sometimes. I do. I admit it. Finally, I stuck my toes right out over the precipice of the Trump rabbit hole, teetering on the edge to call down into it with a question, just to see if I would even get an answer. My brief posted reply to Mary's tirade asked, "Didn't your stepdad teach you that where there's smoke, there's fire?" I said that all that media stuff about Trump that she was complaining about seemed like a shocking lot of smoke. I asked, if all the residents of the community came to the ranger station crying "smoke," while just one, Mr. Fox, called all these
fake news,
wouldn't your stepdad at least have investigated some of these smoke reports? Mary responded,
My stepdad agrees with my beliefs, and my dad too, if he was living. He was a conservative to the core. He helped many conservative politicians on their campaigns, to include Barry Goldwater when he ran for president of the USA. He found that conservatives cared about the land and helped ranchers and farmers more than any Democrat ever did.
Now the game was afoot. I asked if this administration was truly conservative. I asked her how her conservative values were being upheld by the Trump administration. I cited a few examples in which that didn't bear out.
With respect, most of your beliefs of what you think Trump has done are not true, and the media has painted a false image of him. I will never believe the propaganda you and others are spewing about him. I look at the great things he has done and continue to do for the American people, communities, country, and the world, for peace and prosperity for all. No other president has had the guts to take on the corruption of the Middle East. We can agree to disagree.
But it had been, at least, a reasonably respectful back and forth. And I gave her my gratitude for entertaining the conversation and sent blessings to her and her family. Even with kindness and patience, our brief conversation took a quick exit at her unwillingness to examine. This linguistic levy fake news keeps the Trump machine afloat in spite of the sewage it spouts day in and day out. It becomes an impenetrable barrier of contempt prior to investigation. That's an old, apt adage that comes from a quote which no one can rightly attribute, but it's supremely suitable here. Since so many MAGA are in stubborn denial, it makes JVL's conclusion to his article seem like it could be achieved with considerable public acquiescence.
I have yet to find a compelling explanation of why this family would choose to give up the power to have money funneled to them by the billions when all it requires is a Trump controlling the Republican Party.
The Trump administration and their vast cabal of corrupt and complicit criminal conspirators have created a cult that becomes impermeable at the point where reality, or the rejection of it to be more precise, becomes a choice. One either investigates, studies, or even accidentally acquires information from their surroundings, senses, and experiences, or one pronounces all or most of this fake news, and the door to shared understanding and/or reasoning slams shut. And who becomes confined when this happens? I think, to some extent, we all do. I'm pretty sure one of the reasons we haven't been more effective at unifying our citizenry in the country is that we non-Trumpists all experience the bafflement I suffered after trying to reason with Mary. There is no room for negotiation with MAGA unless one or some of them defect, even temporarily, as has recently happened a few times in Congress and even in the media. Nothing moves, nothing changes until there is even a tiny crack in the dam. Which brings me to JVL's caveat.
Tucker, if he runs, he should not be underestimated.
Last wrote this one day before Carlson went to the airwaves to apologize for having misled us all with respect to Trump.
It's not enough to say, well, I changed my mind, or like, oh, this is bad, I'm out. It's like in very small ways, but in real ways, you and me and millions of people like us are the reason this is happening right now. So I do think it's like a moment to wrestle with our own consciences.
Carlson said on the Tucker Carlson show, referring to the role of his and others' support for Trump.
You know, we'll be tormented by it for a long time. I will be. And I want to say I'm sorry for misleading people. It was not intentional.
The apology was perceived by many in the media as a big crack in the dam. And maybe it was. And yet, I also wonder if Carlson's mea culpa reinforces JVL's admonition. If you believe Carlson accidentally misled us, and that his misdirection and conniving are over, you would have to be either forgetful or in denial about the facts. It seems more likely that Tucker Carlson might be looking to elevate himself in the next iteration of the evil empire. With reality off the table, it seems just as possible that we could end up with a continuation of the Trump dynasty, with the likes of Don Jr. continuing the reign, or Trump the Elder and his coin-operated cohorts finding a way to connive a third term for the decaying demagogue, provided they can find a way to keep an animated enough cadaver. However, there are signs that the veil of voodoo is slipping. While some Trump cultists like Mary are taking umbrage at citizens amassing in peaceful protests, others are feeling the hurt in their healthcare costs, drug prices, gas prices, grocery prices, job losses or cutbacks, and more. These real and personal losses finally have brought some members of MAGA to consider the disparity between what they are being told and what they are experiencing. when even a slim majority of them can't afford to disavow reality because it is pressing in upon them, then we might have a chance to counter the curse of the cult. This can't come soon enough, because the midterms are fast upon us, and as a nation, we literally have everything to lose. And it might take absolute and undeniable landslides to defeat the election denialism we have all seen before. Anything less than a resounding, irrefutable result from this year's midterms and for 2028 could create a second curse worse than the first. Because, as JVL says,
if DJ TJ were to run, even if he lost, he would be the presumed frontrunner for the 2032 election, buying the family another half-decade in which to print money.
And denial would go on dividing us until people believe their own eyes, ears, and experiences. We are cursed to coexist with zombies among us, and the shadow men who control them continue to hold the levers of power. What is hard not to see, even for those unwilling to see?
Sheer numbers.
What is hard for the demonic announcers to deny? Huge masses. What is enough to stop the gears of oligarchy and kleptocracy from turning?
Massive strikes.
We are the cure for the curse.
Coyote running. Running, coyote. Deserts of ice, rivers, crystal pain.
This has been Sandy Alt reporting from the wild. Every week or so, I publish a written essay, and then a few days after, I produce an audio podcast version like this one. I really love doing these podcasts because I get to wear a lot of hats. Writer, storyteller, producer, musician, and composer. I'm always delighted to include voices from the community. You can read and subscribe to the companion piece to this podcast at sandyalt.substack.com. If you navigate there, you can see notes citing the sources for this script as well as the companion publication. Let me clarify that Mary and her family are composites of a number of Trump loyalists with whom I have had the kinds of conversations I set forth here. I have altered the details out of respect for all the Marys in my life and their families. My intent is to show the power of tribal identity and legacy, even over the facts. I want to thank the talented voiceover artists for this episode, Ron Shukar, our purple weather lady. And I want to thank two members of my content development team, Teresa Douse-Weber and Eric Brody. And if you'd like to know what my team is up to, you can also find us on Substack at Our Democracy Collective and our YouTube channel by the same name. And if you want more stories from the wild, look for my Wild Mystery series in book, audiobook, and ebook. You can start with any book in the series and go wild.
Running.